Hey everybody, my name is Zach REDRUP and you're listening to the It's Not a Phase podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Bleed From Within drummer and founding member Ali Richardson. We chat about their new album Shrine, why that album titles are always just one word, when and why he started to manage the band himself, signing to Nuclear Blast Records, focusing more on the live experience when writing songs, the upcoming 10th anniversary of their album Uprising, getting addicted to playing kubb, and loads more. Before we get started, let's cover off the boring stuff. If you enjoy this episode and would like to support the podcast, please consider subscribing, rating, and leaving a review wherever you're listening to this. We also have a Patreon, where everyone gets access to each episode a week earlier than everyone else, a Discord community, and a merch store too. You can also follow and reach out to me on social media. All of the links can be found at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. And with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into this week's episode of It's Not a Phase. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of It's Not a Phase, where I'm joined by Bleed From Within drummer Ali Richardson. How are you doing?
All good, mate. All good. Thanks for having me.
So before we move into obviously the new album you've got coming out, Shrine, I kind of want to talk about the previous album, Fracture. Obviously, ironically, that kind of was the release, the rollout was kind of fractured itself in ways because of COVID. So the release plan was kind of unintentionally fractured, but you guys had, were really successful with that album. You did the live stream, Viral Hysteria. You did some digital shows with Lamb of God. You released your second beer.
The highlight right there.
Yeah, got to pick up the highlights. You did your main stage set at Download Pilot. You played at Bloodstock as well, just to name a few of the things that you did during that cycle. And, you managed to come out of a rut swinging, whereas, a lot of other bands, really struggled during that time. What do you think it is that made you guys kind of like break through and, make a success out of a bad situation? And looking back on that time now, how do you kind of look at that whole cycle for Fracture?
Yeah, Fracture's basically fulfilled its role for us. It was very much bridging a gap at the time. We didn't know that that's what it was going to be doing, but with hindsight, that's what it's done. And we're incredibly grateful to that album for the opportunities that it's given us. We had the opportunity at the time to postpone the album and put it back, but nobody really knew the scope of COVID at this time, and I think we thought it would be over a lot sooner. Nobody was to know that it was going to be 18 months or 2 years of no shows and lockdown and all that carry on. So yeah, we stuck to our guns and we put it out, and it quickly became apparent that we were in it for the long haul. So whilst we never get the chance to fully tour Fracture, like take it to Europe and potentially other markets around the world, it kept us busy. It kept us focused. It allowed us to really tap into that at-home audience, that sort of captive audience, if you will. And we ran with that. Do you know what I mean? We were doing a lot of Instagram lives, a lot of like listen throughs to old albums live on YouTube and stuff like that, and really try to find new ways to engage with the fans, like pushing a lot of merchandise and stuff on the e-com side of things, all the while promoting a brand new album, which if it wasn't for that, we would have been fucked, I think that was something that we sticking to our guns and putting the album out when we did, is one of the best things that we've done in the last couple of years. And it bridged that gap nicely into Shrine. Obviously the headline shows at the end of last year, we released I Am Damnation before we went out on those shows. And that was the kind of the hint at new material, that new material was coming. And yeah, now when we tour like festivals this year, it's going to be primarily focused on Shrine and Fracture. Probably not get a lot of old stuff in there because those tunes have had their time, and Fracture never got its sort of time in the limelight, so to speak. Yeah. And obviously we'll be promoting the new album as well. So yeah, I mean, in summary, Fracture kind of kept us going. It kept us focused, and I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunities that it's given us.
Did you think it kept you on your toes as well? Because like you kind of said yourself, it made you kind of focus on, engaging with your fans digitally, as opposed to, the classic album rollout of album tour, focus on the live shows, the festival appearances. Whereas, like say, you guys focused on engaging with your fans in social media, your digital shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a new kind of, I guess, just a new way of working with the tools that we had available to us, like social media and, oh, what can we do here? And then streaming shows started coming around, and it was like, oh, well, let's try this. And that's obviously a learning curve. I'd never really done anything like that before. I did one with Sylosis as well, and it was just going into a room with no audience, but having to perform like there's an audience there. So it was. I really felt for Kennedy, I guess, and for Josh in those situations. But having to be a front man and kind of talking to an imaginary audience kind of thing was pretty bizarre. But yeah, it definitely kept us on our toes, and we're lucky in the sense that we all have jobs outside of the bands that we've created to allow us to continue to do the band. The band has never been a primary source of income at all. So yeah, we weren't, when the band lost a big stream of income, we weren't affected, and we were able to continue as normal. So yeah, we were very lucky in that sense.
I think that's a good thing with, having all these multiple revenues of income. So if one does kind of falter a little bit for, things that are kind of outside of your control, like COVID and stuff like that, then it's not like, you grind to a halt and you're panicking to see what to do next.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, that's been our mantra for years now. I mean, we realized quite early on that the band wasn't going to generate enough money for 5 people to live off. So we've all created jobs for ourselves, still within the industry, but that are flexible enough to allow us to tour and dedicate the time that the band requires. Do you know what I mean? We can write, record, tour, manage, do everything that we have to do, but still our money comes from elsewhere, basically. Yeah. And that's allowed us to do this for as long as we have, and allowed us to stay on top of things throughout lockdown, which I know I had so many friends and peers that were just struggling. It was a nightmare for everybody, regardless of industry, but in particular, I think creatives and the music industry got hit pretty bad. So we were fortunate in that sense.
100%. So moving on to the new record, Shrine. I believe you guys started working on that during obviously the COVID quarantine and stuff, and when things were in the thick of it. Because I know you put that video up on YouTube of your summer writing retreat in the north of Scotland. How did the writing and recording of that album kind of come together, especially like you say with the downtime that COVID kind of afforded you?
Well, we were pretty focused and inspired after the release of Fracture. It was obviously our most successful album to date. It's racked up over, I don't know where it is now, but it's like over 25 million streams and stuff. And it was just mad for us that it had such a great response. So we were really inspired off the back of that. And whilst we hadn't played any live shows, we had a good taste of sort of following what we'd learned throughout the recording process of Fracture. And we knew what we were going to be developing with this new material, some of which we'd already we had some riffs lying around from Fracture that didn't make it onto the album, and we kind of knew where we were going to go with this. So yeah, it was challenging, I think, because it was done pretty much all remotely. Usually we got together. We would get together quite regularly to jam parts of albums and stuff. That's usually how we like to do things. Gunsy will present ideas, and then me and him meet up, and then the rest of the guys will get involved. But we've always done that because we are just a band that sort of started off playing in a room and jamming with each other,
Yeah.
So Shrine forced us to do things a little bit differently, but we still, we still had the opportunities to meet up like we did at the lodge in Scotland and stuff, and tie things together. And it was an interesting way of doing it, just slightly different for us, really. And yeah, couldn't be happy with the results, to be honest. We'll just keep doing it this way, I think, moving forwards.
Yeah.
We're sick of each other after all this time, so we'll just do everything via Zoom, and then we can just cancel it when we get annoyed.
Yeah, just do it in different countries as well,
Yeah,
exactly. Get as far away from each other as possible.
Definitely.
And I saw on the video you're playing something called Kubb. Now, I've never even heard of what Kubb is, so you got to tell me what it is.
God, I didn't realise that was in the video. Kubb, I used to live in Reading. I live in Brighton now, but when I was in Reading, I lived with a guy called Dave, and it's basically his group of mates played this game. And I remember when he first introduced it to me, I was like, oh, this looks like it's going to be really shite, mate. Like, just fucking chucking a bit of wood about.
Yeah.
But it is the most addictive, competitive game, like sort of garden game or field game or whatever you call it. Like, it's just amazing. I'm not going to get into the rules of it now, but if you want to look it up, then Kubb, Kubb, it's called Swedish chess in some places. And it's just absolutely brilliant. I think everyone owns a set of Kubb sort of things, you know what I mean? They've got their own Kubb set for tours and stuff like that. Even when we went to that writing retreat, as soon as we get an opportunity to do it, we'll be playing a bit of Kubb for sure. Or Kubb, I'm not sure. Maybe somebody Swedish can tell me the proper pronunciation there.
There's no songs about Kubb on the album, is there?
Unfortunately not. No.
I've also noticed that you guys have a knack with all of your albums, you always settle on single word titles. So you've got Humanity, Empire, Uprising, Era, Fracture, and now Shrine. Why do you think that is? Is that something that you've all done intentionally, or has it just happened?
Well, now it's intentional, but
Yeah.
I think we got to, I think it was Era. I think Era, and then when Fracture happened, we were like, fuck, we've really started something now. So we're gonna stick with it. And it's a challenge as well. We really enjoy finding, when you settle on that word,
Yeah.
I think a sentence can almost give away too much sometimes about what something might be. We've always enjoyed not going into the details of our lyrics too much and leaving them open for interpretation. It's me and Kennedy that write pretty much all the lyrics.
Right.
And we enjoy keeping that open to interpretation for the listener. We don't like sort of pigeonholing, this is what this is about. Sometimes we do, very rarely though. And with the single album, or the single title, single word titles, it leaves everything open, but it's more of, I guess it invokes an emotion. It's a hint at what it's about, as opposed to, I'm not explaining that very well, but we basically stumbled onto it, and then the last couple of albums, especially with Fracture and even more so with Shrine, it was important for us to get like the word that just encapsulated that kind of thing for us, and what people think it might mean. And we've had a couple of interviews, we're like, oh, Shrine, so is this about this and is this about that? And you're like, you're quite far off, you know. And we enjoy that. I guess it's just a little game to play with people who give a shit.
Puts a bit of mystery into the whole
thing. Yeah, definitely.
So what do you kind of do? Do you kind of like, you obviously you write the album, you kind of finish with the album, you know roughly what the ideas are kind of in advance anyway. Do you kind of brainstorm all these different words and then you just settle on a favorite, or is it just comes naturally?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Era was the last one that came. Everyone was kind of natural. I think Fracture there was a lot to choose from there, and with Shrine there were a lot of options as well, and then it's just a case of whittling it down and arguing with each other until somebody gets tired, and I end up getting my own way basically. But no, it's there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and there's usually a lot of words on the table that we sort of make our way through and then settle on the one, as it were.
Well, I was listening to your records, and I've noticed as obviously the records go on, you've kind of slowly and steadily shifted from wanting to be this fast, heavy band. Not to say that you're not fast and heavy at the moment, but you've kind of now put more and more focus on like the live experience and the live feel and crowd participation in your songs. And especially on this new album, Shrine, there's a lot more textures and layers, orchestral parts. There's some like not choir singing, but there's like these orchestras singing parts. How much does the thought of how a song, when you're putting a song together, how much is the live experience in your mind when you're writing and putting together material? It's
very apparent now, which you can probably tell by the music sort of thing.
Yeah.
We don't really write music for anyone else other than ourselves. So it is what we want to play and what we want to hear, because we're in this for the long haul. We want to be doing this for as long as we physically can. So we're just writing what we enjoy. That being said, especially off the back of the likes of Era and Fracture and stuff, the parts that go down well with our audience or go down well live, it's like, that got a good reaction. Let's sort of work on that and develop that and see if we can use it again in a different way. And yeah, we're getting too old for all that fast shit, mate. I'm not gonna lie. It's not as easy as it used to be.
Yeah.
But just in general, I think there's a little bit more fun to be had for us, just in slowing things down a bit and using the space in different ways. When you mentioned the textures and stuff there, that's something that we've wanted to do for a long time, is sort of realize some of these production goals of ours and have like live strings and get someone else in to add textures and layers. So we had Parallax Orchestra in on this album, and we had a guy called Jamie Finch, who is part of a band called Anavae, who are amazing, by the way. You should check them out. And Jamie came in as the kind of adding additional production basically throughout the album, and all these little textures and layers that you hear just embedded in the song that just give it a bit more life and a bit more depth. Something we've always wanted to do. We've experimented with in the past, but it's always been us. We've not really had the money to bring anyone on to do it for us. It's been very DIY, and we've just not really had the means, the time, as it were, as well. Yeah. Fracture was recorded in a rush. Era, we had a lot of time, but it was very much focused on the instruments that play there. So yeah, it was just great to be able to take a step back and bring someone else into the fold and get their take on our music as well. So we kind of gave them the demos and said, we like this kind of thing. but then basically gave them free reign. And there's obviously a lot of things we would be like, nah, that's not what we want to do, because we produce all the stuff ourselves.
Yeah.
And we write it all ourselves. So we're quite cutthroat in that sense. Right. We know what it is that we want. But yeah, a lot of Jamie's suggestions, we were just like, that's fucking great. This texture's amazing. Let's keep that, repeat it throughout the song or whatever. So yeah, looking forward to experimenting more with that stuff as we go on, but we'll always be a metal band through and through. So
yeah. Like you say, like it does kind of add like a cinematic kind of feel to some of the songs. And as I mentioned before, listen to, your older stuff as well. You go from something like Servants of Divinity to, I Am Damnation and stuff, like the worlds apart, really. But
it's a totally different band, man. I mean, we get this shit all the time, like fans requesting that we play shit from the first two albums, and I'm like, it's not the same members, we're not the same people. We fucking hate it. It's like we're writing this stuff for a reason now, and it sounds completely different because it is completely different. And maybe at some point you'd sort of appease the fans and just say, oh fuck it, we'll put one in for a laugh, but it's just god awful stuff, really. Respect for the albums, it was a time in our lives for sure, but we don't enjoy it.
They served their purpose at that time, but now you're on to bigger and better shit.
Barely.
Well, you got here today, so it's done something.
Yeah, true.
And also talking about kind of your older work, next year is the 10th anniversary of Uprising. Do you think you're going to do anything to celebrate that, or is it just not really past your mind?
I didn't even know that until you said that. I totally forgot. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. See what the state of the world's like, and play it by ear. I don't know. That could be a shout. I'll put you on the guest list. This is your idea,
Yeah.
Yeah, we might do something. Uprising was a big turning point for us. That's where we experimented. Well, not even experimented. It's where we kind of fell into this more on the sound that we're doing now. That was us really sort of finding our way, so to speak, with Uprising. So got all the time in the world for that album. That's when we really started, in my opinion. So yeah, we might do something. I don't know. I'll make a note of that.
Watch this space. This is also Shrine is your first release since signing to Nuclear Blast, and I think you signed to them towards the end of last year. What made you want to move on to working with Nuclear Blast on this record? Because I think you were with Century Media for maybe nearly a decade. Is that right?
You've done your research, mate. This is great. So yeah, we were signed to them for about 8 years, I think 2012 to 2020, 21. Yeah, so about 8-9 years we were signed to Century Media, and nothing bad to say about the label. They were great in the time that we were with them and stuff. We just wanted a change. I manage the band, and we look after ourselves after experiences that we've had in the past. No one else is going to look out for us the way that we do, really. So yeah, I just felt that a change on that side of things was going to help push the band further forward. We'd set ourselves up with Era and Uprising Era, and Uprising obviously a bit of a gap between those ones, but with Era and Fracture we'd set ourselves up nicely, and I think just to take it to the next level, a change was necessary. And yeah, after the first couple of meetings with Nuclear Blast, it was quite apparent that they were the team that were going to deliver that, and I really couldn't be happier with how we're working together. It's just been there's just a great synergy between us and the label, and already this is our best performing album by far, just on the streaming digits. I was checking just before this call, and we're over 4 million streams already with 3 things. So we're onto a flyer here, and I'm very excited.
Yeah,
the future with this label, and just very grateful for the work that they've put in so far. You know what I mean? They're holding up their end of the bargain, which is always nice with a record label.
That's true. You've got to fill your side of the deal now, I guess.
We just need to keep writing fucking banging tunes, mate. That's it. As long as we keep doing that, they'll be happy. As long as we keep getting out on the road. And now COVID's fucked off, we can start to do that. So yeah, excited for the future, man, for sure.
When you talk about the future, I mean, you guys have been together for, we're approaching almost 2 decades now.
It's fucking depressing. That is depressing, man. Honestly,
20 years of metal.
It's like pretty much half my adult life, or more than half my adult life has just been in this band. It's wild.
Well, what you obviously you've achieved quite a lot in that time, and by the sound of things, you're going to achieve a lot more once this album drops. What are kind of the milestones that you want to hit with this band that you haven't quite got yet? What's the next milestone you want to hit?
I think it's a good question. There's no real any. The only milestone that I have, and I think the rest of the guys have, we just want to be able to headline the Barrowlands in Glasgow, and that's on. That's on the horizon. It's only 2 venues away, basically, in terms of the touring plan. That's laid out. So, that's coming. And after that, I'll die happy.
Yeah.
in all honesty, mate, there's no ceiling or no milestone or no barrier that I feel the band has to break through. As long as we are performing as well as we have done over the last few years, we've never been more solid as a group of mates, as a unit, as a band. As long as we're happy doing what we're doing, there is no limit. There is no telling what we could achieve and what we're, what the band's capable of. I think this album has really shown me what we're capable of doing sonically and musically. Already looking at newer material for a future release. There's more experimentation to come. There's more just developing a sound that we've found and really we're sort of honed in on the last couple of albums. We're just looking to rework that a little bit. So yeah, I mean, there's not really any. I can't think of any other than the Barrowlands. Headlining the Barrowlands is just all of us coming from Glasgow. That's just like fuck the Hydro, fuck the SECC. I'm not saying I wouldn't mind headlining them, but there's something very special about the Barras. So yeah, I'll put that down as the milestone. But in terms of anything else, we're just going to keep going until we fucking can't do it anymore.
So you say you're still working on new material. It's like you guys just never stop.
We're just inspired, man, and just running with it at the moment. And I think in this day and age, a band has to be working quickly. People's attention spans are next to nothing. A couple of seconds and they're scrolling on to the next thing or skipping to the next fucking track or whatever it is. So, we're not doing it because of that. I think it's good that we're in the position that we're in and we're inspired enough to keep going. We are just kind of keeping up with the times. We might get 6 months down the line and decide, we do need a break. We do need to take a step back and take a year out or something. But at this point in time, we're just rolling with it. We're inspired. We're working well together.
And through all these years as a band, what do you think's been the biggest lesson you've learned about not only being in the band, but the way that the industry works as well?
It's full of fucking snakes and rats, and I hate most of them. But
straight to the point.
Yeah, I mean, man, the industry's bullshit. Really, I think it's very easy to get bitter, as you've just noticed. But it's so rewarding in so many ways. I think there's a lot of nasty people in there, but I think you have to focus on the positives. I think you have to focus on the reason why we're here in the first place. For me, it's creating music, it's touring the world with my best mates, it's connecting with our audience. And that will always, performing live will always be the reason that I do this. Getting on a stage and just having the ability to do that. And, coming from playing pubs to nobody there and playing at the bar staff to even just where we're at now, which is a long way from success by a commercial standpoint. It's massive for us. It's selling out a 500 cap venue in London. That's like fucking Brixton to us. And it's great. And we're very humble in that sense. We know where we're at. We know what we want to achieve, I guess. We know where we could be, but we just get our heads down and get on with it. But in terms of the industry and the people that are in it, questionable. Some of those folk, deciding to manage the band ourselves. And, the last couple of years especially, that's landed on me, kind of making a lot of those decisions. And I think that's been one of the most important things, is trying to keep control of what you can and control the outcomes and just make decisions that are in your best interests. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to ask those questions that should be asked, or ask questions that shouldn't be asked. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't be afraid for that. You're dealing with your livelihood, your future, your career. You're, like I mentioned earlier, over half my adult life's gone into this. So, I think it's been a massive learning curve last 5-6 years. But yeah, we wouldn't be the same without all the stuff that we've been through, basically. So
yeah, 100%.
Watch your back. My advice is just watch your back, basically. And
look out for snakes.
Look out for snakes and rats and fucking boot them when you see them.
So you mentioned, obviously, you manage the band now. When did that kind of start, and why did you decide to take up that role within the band?
I think I was always kind of the person that dealt with that side of stuff. I think the rest of the guys just really couldn't be asked. They just wanted to focus on other things. We had a management company for a while, and then when we stopped working with them, we were sort of left in a shitty situation. So yeah, I just kind of picked up the reins, so to speak, and it just made sense that it was me that would start doing it from then on. And it's only really been the last few years where it's felt like more of a serious role, and there's been a lot of decisions that have had to be made that, I guess I've sort of spoken to the guys and said, look, I think we should do this, and they've kind of trusted me with the decisions and stuff. But I manage on behalf of my best mates. It's not you know, and I think that's the way it should always be. Do you know what I mean? There should be that synergy between manager and client, not that Bleed From Within is a client of mine, do you know what I mean? But like, it should always work in the way that the band comes first and you believe in them, and that's what we do. So I believe in ourselves, I believe in the guys in the band, and I'll always sort of safeguard that as we move forwards. And I think to be a good manager, that's at the basis of it all. And then I'm just trying to learn what I can about the industry as we go and take it from there, really.
So did you manage bands in the past, or was it something you kind of picked up from watching what they did?
Didn't manage anyone. No. Bleed From Within is my first management gig. You know, I'd like to manage more bands in the future for sure. It's something I'd like to get into. But yeah, just now it's Bleed. That's it.
So do you feel like bands kind of, at least in this day and age as well, because obviously more than ever it's harder to earn money from music, especially heavy music. Do you feel it's really important for someone in a band to kind of have a good understanding of management or something else, you know, very integral into the runnings of the band?
I think it's very important to understand sort of neighbouring rights and PPL and PRS and where you can claim your money, and you know, those things are crucial to a band. Sort of learn about your copyright and what you're entitled to. I think that would be number one if you start creating music.
Yeah.
You know, sort out a good brand for yourself, focus on merchandise, get a place where people can buy it around the world, establish that brand. Don't stray from it too much, you know, build something that's recognisable, and focus on those sources of income. I think the modern musician in this day and age has to have many strings to their bow. I think to go into it now, you know, blinded by passion, to be like, I'm going to make all my money from this metal band that I'm in. You know, that's not saying you shouldn't go into it with your heart, but I think you should be realistic. We always were, and we always had jobs on the side just to keep things going, just in case. You know, I used to work in a fucking car wash. I used to work in a bar. Like, I'd do random shifts in, you know, shopping centres, fucking Marks and Spencers and stuff. Yeah. You always had to keep that stuff, like seasonal work. Just, be smart about it. Be focused, be passionate. For sure, but you know, be grounded, be humble, be reasonable, and you know, I know so many people in bands that have just burnt out. You know, to a really bright flame at the start, and then just kind of dying off. And they were going into it with that kind of, we're going to take over the world, and we're going to be fucking minted in no time. And then, you know, you start touring and throwing money at sound guys and backdrops and lights and pyro and whatever, and you very quickly realise that you can't. That's just not sustainable. Yeah, the money dries up and you get the credit cards out, and then you just fuck yourself. So I think modern musician has to have many strings to their bow in terms of income, I'd say. Yeah,
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there as well. Like financially, like you've got to work out all these other things that you don't really see on the surface of what you've got to pay for, like you say, sound guys, the driver around.
It's mental. It's absolutely mental. You don't understand the scale of it until you start fucking touring, getting in a van and just going places, and surprise charges, going to Europe now with a carnet cost. Your van could be overweight, you could get charged money, you have to leave the van, fly people back, like unexpected costs that could just come out of nowhere and sting you for thousands of pounds at a time. Like all that stuff is there. You know, I sound like a proper door-faced bastard here, but this is just the harsh realities of touring. I think people have to be aware of that. And back to that management thing, I think sort of if I was to look after a younger band, or you know, even certain professional bands that are kind of there, semi-professional, whatever, and they think they've got it all worked out, and I hear some conversations these days with folk talking about costs and overheads, and I'm like, you haven't even considered this, or you haven't considered this, and they're just like, oh shit, yeah, and I'm like, that's like thousands of pounds. You could fuck yourself halfway through a tour if that's not, you haven't considered this. So yeah, it's a tricky game, but you know, if you can get on with it, then it's a fun one, obviously.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of especially like younger bands, they don't want to see a band or touring as a business. They just want to see it as art, and it's just not realistic. That's just not the case.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm managing the band, and the other guys are just getting pissed. No, that's not true at all. But if Kennedy was on the call, he would say that he doesn't like dealing with that stuff. Kennedy's an example of just wanting to focus on the music, and he knows that he's got a fucking best mate who's sort of looking out for him, sort of thing. And if I ever need any advice from them or a decision on what I think we should do as a group, I go to them. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think, you know, and that's all right for people. If you've got one person or two people in the band that want to deal with the business side of stuff, then just establish those rules early on. And then, you know, you find that there's a nice balance of stuff. If I get stressed out on the road because of X, Y, and Z going wrong, then I've got some other guys in the band who are just they sort of have a bit of a laugh about it and be like, come on, it's not that bad, we're all here. And it's like, oh, cool. If we were all sort of thinking the way that I was thinking, then, sometimes we'd probably just all break down and be crying all on the floor of the tour bus.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys kind of do and try and keep in-house, other than obviously you kind of handling the management side of things?
Our tour management. Our tour manager, front of house guy, is now taking over some of those duties, but he's like a sixth member of the band. We do all our content ourselves. Gunsey, Kennedy, and Davey work. They do sort of animation, digital animation stuff, and lyric videos and stuff. So yeah, all the adverts and all the content and visuals that you see on our pages, they're all made in house. So the kind of branding, I guess. Stephen tracks our guitars and vocals. He has done the last 2 albums. So he prepares all the files for mixing and sends them off. We produce ourselves. I work for a merchandise company that handles all the merchandise. So I guess it's kind of in-house, but not really.
Yeah, kind of.
Artwork we've done ourselves. Davey's done that the last couple of albums. I'm the accountant as well. So yeah, I guess those are the sort of things that we do ourselves to keep it sustainable. And then, like I said, we've all got the jobs outside of that as well, and just try and sink as much money as we can back into the band. Really try and build it from a production standpoint now. Getting to play with fire is always a good laugh, and just build an exciting show. The headline shows that we had at the end of last year, Gunsey and the guys were able to. Well, we debuted some of that stuff on Viral Hysteria. We had the big video screens.
Yeah.
And it was Gunsey, Kennedy, and Davey that built all the visuals for them. And that stuff is fucking expensive, by the way. If you want somebody to make that shit for you, it's very pricey. So
saved a lot of money then.
It was a ton of money. And for the headline shows last year, London at the Dome and the Garage in Glasgow, we got some screens in, and again we had some visuals prepared there by the guys. So yeah, we've got that team there, and I guess for video stuff, just in general, Gunsey's a great guy to be involved with that stuff. He's always got a very, like, the idea for the Stand Down video was an idea that I had, and I explained it very passionately to Gunsey, and I was like, oh man, this is the way this has to be, and he's like, how's this going to work on camera, Ali? And I was like, well, I don't know. How does it work? And then he's there to kind of be like, well, why don't we do this and try this and try this? And I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, so directing and producing stuff is good to have the team that we've got.
So you've got Shrine coming out on June 3rd. What's happening between now and then? Have you got many more singles coming out or anything like that?
Yeah, there'll be another single dropping for sure. And then, I'm sure there might be a wee cheeky one on release day, as there normally is. And then the album will be out for everyone to hear. Very excited about that. We've not really there's so many good tracks on the album that I'm immensely proud of. And some of them obviously won't be released as singles. So I can't wait for people to put that album on and just listen to it start to finish and just start to see. And track 2 is called Sovereign. That's not going to be out as a single, and it's a fucking belter. It's one of my favourite tunes we've ever written. And I just can't wait for people to hear the songs, basically. Another couple of singles. We've got a show next month in Czech Republic. It's our first show outside of the UK since 2019.
Nice.
And then, a really busy festival season off the back of the release date. So, yeah.
I mean, I won't give anything away for people who listen to this before the album drops.
Right, okay.
But I would say Shrine is your best album that you've done so far. So,
Thank you very
much, man. Congratulations.
Awesome.
Before I let you go enjoy the rest of your day, are there any final words, anything else you want to plug?
Just the album, bleedfromwithin.com. We've got all the pre-orders there. There's a really sexy looking limited edition vinyl that you can go and pick up. And they've got all the tour dates on there. We're going to Europe at the end of the year, headlining there. People keep asking about UK dates. We obviously haven't forgotten about the UK, so see what happens at Download. We might announce something there.
Oh.
Wink, wink. Just thanks to everyone for the support. I think I mentioned streaming numbers earlier. It's been fucking mental last few months. So thanks. It's been a wild ride, and looking forward to the future. Awesome. Well, congratulations. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys achieve with this new album. I'm sure it's going to be lots of great things. Thanks, man. And hopefully see you at a show or a festival soon. Likewise, mate. Maybe with another beer as well. Fingers crossed. The Shrine beer released. We'll work on that. Yeah. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please consider supporting the podcast in any way that you can. We have a Patreon where you can get access to each episode a week early, along with some other perks, a merch store, a Discord community, or you can leave a review wherever you're listening to this.
You can also follow me on social media or subscribe to the newsletter, where I'll send out each episode to you via email, along with regular playlists. All of this can be found at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. Thanks again for listening, and remember, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle.